All right, so this right here is a beast of a lens. This is the Canon 24-105-2.8. I've been looking for a new lens and I was wondering if this makes sense and really, is it practical? I mean, can I get something this big and can I balance it on this? Well, I guess you can. Let's go ahead and take a look at how I got this Canon 24-105-2.8 balanced here on a DJI RS4 Pro and some of the steps I think that will help you make your life easier if you're trying to do a monster lens like this, period, on a gimbal. Oh, hey, and do me a favor, if you actually want to support independent artists out there that are making creative and new cinema, go ahead and do me a favor and check out my film, AmericanDeadbolt.com. You can go and you can buy this movie for only $5.99. It would directly go to support independent film and keeping artists like me out there actually working in today's world. Now, before I get into setting this up, I do want to point out what I would consider a couple of important things to know about how I got my gimbal, how I set it up, and more importantly, the things you may need to know if you're trying to balance a giant lens like this, or honestly, this would work for the Canon 70-200 as well, which is another giant lens that you're probably going to want to gimbal at some point. Now, the first thing to point out is I do have a couple of aspects here on my gimbal that I've kind of modified. I don't know if they're modifications, but they're things that I do just to make my life easier. The first one is, as you can see, I do like to use a Raven Eye system. It's just simple. I love being able to throw a phone on here and be able to monitor, so that does add some additional weight. And if you look at the top here, I also have a modified quick release plate that I put on the DJI plate. And the reason why I've done this is a Manfrotto plate, 504 plate. And I do that so I can easily come up here and put my camera in. I can fit it in, slick it back, and it always does the same every time. When I'm running and gunning, this means I never have to rebalance my gimbal. Once it's balanced, I can literally take it off, quick release it on and off, boom, boom, throughout the day and go. So for me, this is something that is absolutely essential when I'm working, so I make that part of my balancing gimbal, and these two things do add a little bit of weight to things. Now, the other thing to look at here is I do have one additional thing because this thing is so heavy, and I do have a small counterweight system. Now, this right here is a small rig counterweight system. I've actually done videos about this before. What I love about this is just a really simple thing. It attaches right here to the base plate of your gimbal. So if I have this here, I can literally just attach this on like this, and then I can just tighten it down and do it. And what I like about this is this lets you slide up and down if you want to get that weight distribution. And if you look at the bottom of it, it does have a couple 1/4-inch screws. So you can take any counterweight that you have, depending on the weight you have, and just screw it on there. And I like this because I have that flexibility. It's easy to get it on and off, and I can finesse the weight balance. So this is a really, really nice thing to do. Now, when you're coming to balance your camera on a gimbal like this, one thing I did find is these lenses do have this foot here, which is great for balance and tripods and all that stuff. However, I found if you put a plate on here and try and balance from this part of the lens, I had a very, very difficult time getting this thing balanced. It raises your camera up more, making it more top heavy, and I just found it really difficult. Luckily on the 24-105 and on the 70-200, if you're on that, you can remove this. Now on this one, it's pretty easy. You just loosen it, and it's got like a button and a quick release here. So if I hit that, boom, you can take that off and remove it. I would strongly recommend removing this. And if you're gonna balance this, what I found worked best for me is try and balance it here on the body and not on the lens itself. Just a little trick of the trade. Now I'm gonna go ahead and slip this on just to show you here what I have. So I bounce that on there and get it on there. And then I already know this because of what goes before. But then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my counterweight system and I'm just going to slip that on there. And as you can see, I can slide it and get it where I want. I know it's gonna go right about here. And I'm gonna tighten that up. And once I tighten it up with this little thumb screw, it's not going anywhere. Okay, now I've cut this on and I put it to sleep. And you can see even as asleep, this thing is very, very well balanced right here as it is. You can see it's sleeping, the motors are off, but I've still got it very well balanced here on there. And this just shows you what you can and can't get away with. And I think this is important to know that if you have something to do it, it's very, very important. Now, if I cut this on, there's one other thing that I think is super important to realize here. Well, I'm gonna cut that on, not off, but let's cut it on, is when you get a giant lens like this, I think it's also important to know that you can clear it. You don't want to be limited in your mobility. And what I like about this system of balancing from here and using a small counterweight is if you look, I can go all the way up. You can see I can scoot all the way up. And if you notice, I have no obstruction whatsoever here on my movement of the gimbal, which is really, really important, especially if you're someone who maybe wants to do things where you're coming down and you're doing lifts and rises. You don't want your gimbal being limited by any kind of plate. And this is how I'm able to set it up to get away with it. Anyway, guys, it's a pretty simple thing, but I figured it's something you want to know about. I'm currently personally in the market for a new 24-70 because mine broke, unfortunately. So I've been debating between this and the classic 24-70 2.8 from Canon. But for me, I use 24-70s on gimbals all the time, and I needed to know if it made sense to practically do it. There is one other very, very important note about a system like this. This is a DJI RS4 Pro. You can balance it on this. If you have a regular DJI RS4 and it's not the Pro version, I found that this lens does not balance on that. You really can't do it. I tried it. I have an RS4. This was just too much of a system to balance on that smaller gimbal. So be aware, if you have a RS4, it's not going to work. If you have an RS4 Pro, it will work. Anyway, guys, I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. Go ahead and leave me notes and comments down below. And yeah, go out there, keep on shooting. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon.